Good morning and welcome to your May Inset Day. I hope you had a lovely long weekend, tremendous weather yesterday, so I hope you got out in the sunshine and refreshed for the rest of this term three, our summer term. A couple of things I want to share with you this morning. The first is about some of the professional learning that our head teachers have been undergoing with myself in terms of radical candor, because that will permeate everything that we do as a service over the next 3 to 5 years, in terms of that feedback, of that our own individual performance and how we continually improve. And in the second part, just a little bit on some of the high level activity that's going to be taking place in this term. The first part, though, was in terms of radical candor. You may hear a little bit more about this in your schools from your head teachers. And I thought it was really important that at a service level that I shared the learning that we are undergoing. And you can see on your screen there what I've been developing is the sort of the SBC way in our leadership aspect, because I'm a firm believer in building capacity and leadership at all levels. And what I've been doing with the head teachers is really unpacking that leading with clarity, leading with care, and leading with challenge. And we've been, over the past year or so, really unpacking the term radical candor and making it our own in terms of our SBC way. And if you've never heard about radical candor, and if you ever read the book, there are many aspects of the book I agree with. There's aspects of the book I don't agree with. But what I've done is really develop this in our context. But in a nutshell, it's about caring personally and challenging directly. And and that's really important because as a service, what underpins what we do, and my expectation is that we care for one another. We need to model that. If we're not caring for one another, then our children and young people cannot see in us what it is to be able to work in partnership, to collaborate, to work positively, to be solution focused together. That's really, really important. So caring personally is a hallmark, I think, within Scottish Borders, but it's something that we need to ensure that we model and we challenge one another when we're not caring for one another. So that part of radical candor, the first part of it is to care personally. The second part is about challenging directly. And that's sometimes where we all find difficulty in receiving feedback or giving feedback. And therefore, it's something that I've been unpacking with the head teachers in terms of that learning about how do we make sure as a service that we model that care and that we care personally for one another and that we challenge directly. So you will be hearing a lot more about this in the next few months, but particularly over the next 3 to 5 year period, because as part of our SBC way, this to me is a hallmark of our leadership. Just as at school and in our settings, feedback to our children and young people, we know how important that feedback is. It's true of us that as professionals, it's imperative that we get really good quality feedback to allow us to grow and for us to develop. Part of the challenge in developing that sort of culture of radical candor is that for many of us, feedback is often seen as criticism, or it can land as criticism or a personal attack, or perceived as we're failing because we're getting feedback. And for many people, and I include myself in this over my professional career, sometimes you equate that challenge with I'm not good enough. And what we've got to do is we've got to flip that. We've got to see that challenge is essential if we are to improve. And if we are those lifelong learners, if we're modeling that to our children and young people, we truly need to embrace feedback and we need to normalize feedback. And that goes in all directions. It's really important that feedback goes up and down and laterally. And we've got to develop that culture of feedback. And we've all maybe given feedback or received feedback where it's not landed well because it's maybe been a bit clumsy. And that's why with my head teachers, what I'm doing is really learning together about how we lead a service that's built on radical candor, but how we develop the approach to radical candor. Because what we need to do is reframe that challenge. For me, what if challenge meant it wasn't criticism? What if we saw it as an investment in your potential, in my potential? And actually, we reframed that nature of feedback as genuinely wanting to help you get better, or generally wanting me to grow and be better, and also framing it in care. And it's our job to help one another grow. It's our job to help one another improve our performance. So I wanted to give you a sort of introduction to radical candor because I think you're going to hear a lot more about it. But I've got three asks. One is reframe it for yourself in terms of feedback. Don't see it as criticism. Don't see it as defining you. Try and let it land as something that is genuinely intended to help you improve. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is be open to giving really clear feedback to your principal teacher or the deputy or the head to ensure that actually what we're doing is we're normalizing and developing a culture whereby feedback is not just about challenge. Feedback is actually about us improving our performance, that real clarity of message and that clarity of how we improve. And I'm the Chief Education Officer, and my goodness, I've got a lot to learn. I've got a lot to still develop in terms of my professional learning. And to the day I retire, if that's not the case, then I'm in the wrong job because I need to be able to model that actually learning is key to my improvement and learning is key for me to improve my performance. And my performance matters. Your performance matters. And what we need to be committed to in Scottish Borders is excellence. And if we're committed to excellence, then we're committed to improvement and we're committed to improving our own performance. So I ask you just to consider that concept of radical candor. It's maybe worth a read in terms of your professional reading, but your head teacher over the next 3 to 5 years will be unpacking that professional learning with you because my expectation is over the next 3 to 5 years that we have a system that's permeated on that caring personally and challenging directly, and that challenge is normalized and not seen as criticism. So really exciting learning, and it's very much part of our SBC way in terms of leadership, and you will hear a lot more about it because the head teachers will tell you that I talk about it every single engagement day or every single business meeting. So it is really important to me, and it's really important that we develop the culture as we go along. Okay, so that's the first part of the message this morning, and that is in terms of that real professional learning development as a local authority. The next is about some of the big pieces of activity and work that we'll be undertaking in term 3. What we are privileged to announce is that we're going to be one of the pilot local authorities for HMIE local authority inspections. And that work will take place. I'm meeting with the managing inspector and the team in the next few weeks. And from the 23rd of June, HMIE will be with us for that week. And we'll be focusing on cluster because there's been a lot of development across our clusters. And quite frankly, I want HMIE to see some of the amazing work that really demonstrates that leadership at all levels. Because for me, leadership at all levels is pupil leadership, it's that community leadership, and that's leadership within our staffing groups, that at every single level, we are all embarking upon leadership and displaying and developing that leadership in our own way. And there's so many examples of that across our clusters. So I really want HMIE to see the amazing work that's taking place in our clusters. So that's the first bit. The second bit is the completion of our service improvement plan. And there are four main priorities as we move forward. The first is learning, teaching, assessment. Second, curriculum. Third, inclusion and wellbeing. And fourth, leadership at all levels. So there are no surprises. All based on our self-evaluation. All the evidence directs us to real attention and continued work in terms of those four priorities. So again, that will permeate your work in terms of your own improvement plans in the next few weeks. So I hope that's been useful in terms of sharing the professional learning in terms of radical candor, but also that we've got an inspection pilot coming, but also that the four key priorities will not be a surprise to you. And it's something in every setting and every school whereby they will be very much the focus over the next 3 to 5 years, because the work that you've done in this authority over the past few years, we were seeing continued improvement. We're seeing that in our metrics, but we're seeing that just in the culture and also some of the innovation that's taking place across our clusters. There's real fantastic work taking place. So hopefully that reassures you that we're going in the right direction, but also the work that you're doing is leading to real innovation and real progress in terms of our metrics. So thanks for listening this morning. I hope you have a fantastic inset day and you have a wonderful remainder to this term 3, the summer term. Have a great day and lovely speaking to you all this morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.